Good morning, all. Our opening words are from the poet Naomi Shihab Nye, and the poem is Kindness. Before you know what kindness really is, you must lose things. Feel the future dissolve in a moment, like salt in a weakened broth. What you held in your hand, what you counted and carefully saved, all this must go so you can know how desolate the landscape can be between the regions of kindness. How you ride and ride, thinking the bus will never stop. The passengers eating maize and chicken will stare out the window forever. Before you learn the tender gravity of kindness, you must travel where the Indian in a white poncho lies dead by the side of the road. You must see how this could be you, how he too was someone who journeyed through the night with plans and the simple breath that kept him alive. Before you know how kindness as the deepest thing inside, you must know sorrow as the other deepest thing. You must wake up with sorrow. You must speak to it till your voice catches the thread of all sorrows and you see the size of the cloth. Then it is only kindness that makes any sense anymore. Only kindness that ties your shoes and sends you out the day to gaze at bread. Only kindness that gazes its head from a crowd of the world to say, "It is I you have been looking for," and then goes with you everywhere, like a shadow or a friend. Let us stand and rise if you are willing and able, and join and sing opening hymn number 1002 in the Teal hymnal, Comfort Me. Yes. All verses, let's do it.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Elise Henricks, and we welcome you all to First Parish in Milton. I am delighted to be the worship associate today for Leslie McPherson, who is the lay leader of today's service. We're also joined by Dayan Drisdom on piano and Colin Glazer as our audio tech. So thanks to everyone who's helped out. And Steve, the Kudis, who put out the cookies and lemonade that you are all welcome to partake of after the service. Thank you. The theme of today's service is resiliency. To anyone here for the first time, a very warm welcome. As we say here at First Parish, however your journey, whatever your heritage, and whomever you love, you are welcome here. There should be information in your pew about First Parish, and after the service, there are many people here who'd be willing and able to answer any questions you may have and chat with you at the lemonade stand. So would you please raise your hand if you have any trouble hearing? Is it okay? Or if you're on Zoom, please mention it in the chat. Thank you. And if you haven't already, please make sure to silence your cell phones. Worship can take place both inside and outside of the meeting house. Church projects and activities are listed in the link, which comes out via email on Thursdays. I do want to say a special thank you to all the volunteers and the leadership committee who helped to make the yard sale a success last week. I understand that we raised about $8,500 so far, and so many items went to new homes instead of to the landfill. So big round of applause to everyone who worked out with that. Our lay-led services are a little bit different in the summer than during the rest of the year. They're an hour earlier, often shorter, and sometimes quite different from our typical services. The lay leader today is sharing something they care a lot about and something that might be quite personal. So it's a way in which we get to know each other in a different and possibly deeper way than we might otherwise. And we grow together as a community. I'm now going to light our chalice, a symbol of Unitarian Universalism. Let it remind us of the warmth of our community and the hope we share that together we can make the world a better place, not just for ourselves, but also for others. Please join me in the call to worship, which is text number 1 on the laminated card that should be in your pew. Come, let us gather. We gather to celebrate the sacred within and among us. We come to seek spiritual growth and understanding. We strive to practice acceptance, forgiveness, and love. Together, we work to build a world with justice and compassion. Come, let us gather together. Let's take a moment to greet each other warmly, and if you're on Zoom, you can come off of mute and say hi. Our reading this morning is entitled Merger Poem by Judy Chicago. And then all that has divided us will merge, and then compassion will be wedded to power, and then softness will come to a world that is harsh and unkind, and then both men and women will be gentle, and then both women and men will be strong, and then no person will be subject to another's will. And then all will be rich and free and varied. And then the greed of some will give way to the needs of many. And then all will share equally in the earth's abundance. And then all will care for the sick and the weak and the old. And then all will nourish the young. And then all will cherish life's creatures. And then all will live in harmony with each other and the earth. And then everywhere will be called Eden once again.
Thank you, Elise. Isn't that a wonderful poem? Several times in the last 20 years or so, I've been asked to define what resiliency is. I've done this for retreats at work, at conferences, and other gatherings I've attended. Usually I've done it as a group exercise, though sometimes not. Definitions included words like flexible and adaptable, the goal being to focus on the ways we think we are or could be flexible, adaptable when faced with challenges. I'll be honest with you, every time I went through this, I thought it was a waste of time. I know, I have a bad attitude. Partly it's my general dislike of corporate culture, and activities like this tend to smell corporate to me, even if they're not. Mostly I've sat trying not to roll my eyes, thinking how unuseful it feels. But then came the 2024 election. I don't think I'm overstating it when I say everything changed. For those who don't feel that way, let me say that in my world, overnight, all conversations changed. Anxieties ramped up as fears became confirmed. So that's what I mean when I say everything changed. In February, at a staff meeting check-in, I heard myself reflect on those resiliency exercises we'd done. I said, all those years of us talking about resiliency, and right now, I have no idea what that is, because I didn't. Now, to be clear, I am not an expert on this. I have no magic wand to offer, but I've been thinking about this, and I've done some reading, I've made some connections, and that's what I'm bringing for you today. Now, part of the problem for me was when I heard the resiliency, the definition seemed to include the idea that if one could only learn the right techniques, when the bad thing was over, there would be bouncing back, returning to some original state. Right now, that feels hard to imagine. We're 6 months into this administration, and I'm still feeling like we're in the shock and awe part. We're in the 21st century, and Christian nationalists want us to go back to some imaginary past. Some of us want the chaos of the moment to stop, and I wouldn't mind just going back to last summer. I want cruelty for the sake of cruelty to stop. I go back and forth between wanting to spend all my time out protesting in the streets or else get numb and stay buried under my blankets. Life's demands seem unimportant, except they're not. Perhaps I was naive. I grew up a child, a sixth-generation Universalist in the 60s and 70s in New Hampshire, a state that has waffled on identity, but is currently a red state. I watched Star Trek and a moon landing. I grew up believing in education, science, and progress. There was so much in the world that I didn't know, but I held on to the assumption, which I still do, that knowledge builds on knowledge, you learn lessons from the past, and you leave the world better than you found it. In the 80s, I belonged to a group called Beyond War, which was Beyond War, if you can imagine it. Yes, I am an old school, peace-loving hippie in many ways. But where we are is here, now. I know we're trying to figure out how to be resilient in these times. There are many quotes about this, of course. Nelson Mandela said, "Do not judge me by my success. Judge me by how many times I fell down and got back up again." Maya Angelou, "I can be changed by what happens to me, but I refuse to be reduced by it." Michelle Obama, "Grief and resilience live together." Confucius, "Our greatest glory is not in never failing, but in rising every time we fall." And of course, the one on every college dorm wall since 1954, Albert Camus' famous quote, "In the depth of winter, I finally learned that within me lay an invincible summer." Now, the problem I always had with that quote was that honestly, it never showed me anything. Side note, for many years I taught writing, and I am of the show don't tell school of writing. This kind of quote only gives me questions. How? How do you see that summer? What does that feel like? And what is this invincible summer? In the book Emergent Strategies, Shaping Change, Changing Worlds, the author, Adrienne Marie Brown, addresses resiliency as part of the pathway to restorative justice. Humans, she says, especially humans who persist in trying to transform the conditions of life, are remarkably resilient. We experience so much loss, pain, hardship, attack, and we persist. Resilience is in our nature, and we recover from things that we would be justified in giving up over again and again. I like this perspective. Resilience as part of our nature feels good to me. She goes on to say that she sees it as part of our nature because we are part of nature. She gave examples of the many ways nature regenerates. Mushrooms clean the land after a nuclear event. There's a process of forest growth after a fire and skin that heals after a cut. Healing is natural. Healing is our birthright, she says. My favorite examples she gives are starfish. If we can keep our core intact, we can regenerate. We can fall apart, lose limbs, and regrow them as long as we don't let anyone threaten our central disk's integrity. So the question is, how do you protect your central integrity? What do you need to protect your inner core? Something I realized when I was working on this was that in the definition of the word, resilience is defined as the ability to recover or rebound after something. Think of a spongy ball, which when squished goes back into shape, but also the ability to withstand it. That was my light bulb moment. Part of what always nagged at me was the question, when are we resilient? When does resilience happen? So many definitions talk about recovering after hard times, focusing only on hard times and after. But resilience, if it's something real, has to be what we do during. I think about the struggles, the years of work that justice warriors have already fought, and what it was that kept them going. I keep going back to what Dan Savage said, referring to how the LGBTIQ community survived in the early days of AIDS. During the darkest days of the AIDS crisis, he said, we buried our friends in the morning, we protested in the afternoon, and we danced all night. The dance kept us in the fight because it was the dance we were fighting for. The quote has been making the rounds again, and I am really glad for it. It is the dance we are fighting for. The dance of loving who you love, worshiping how you worship, being paid and treated equally, showing respect to all. This is the dance, human decency. Now, if this makes you feel like offering up a high five, then good, you're still with us. There's a wonderful meme going around that I think says it perfectly, and honestly really stopped me in my tracks. If you feel heavy because you care deeply about injustice, suffering, and ecological destruction, remember that a $1 trillion propaganda machine was built to make you numb, but it didn't work on you. Think about that for a minute. It didn't work on you. This is what is at the heart of Unitarian Universalism. This is who we are. The thing that keeps us going, keeps us human, is based not on us becoming some kind of superhuman hero saint, but in us being our most authentic human selves, even in the midst of the surreal. We need art. We need music. We need community to be fully human. We need to tend to ourselves and keep the fires of kindness burning for others. That sounds like resilience to me. I can't tell you what nourishes you, but I can say that whatever it is, you need it now more than ever. Last Sunday, during her service here at First Parish, Laurel Whitehouse told us joy is necessary for resilience in these times. Think about what brings you joy. Resilience is more than endurance. We may need to endure, but resilience is our transformative opportunity. One example that I thought of was right here in our own congregation with what we did during COVID. Like everyone, we went online. It was a radical shift and certainly challenging. Along with us worshiping on Zoom, we figured out new ways to be together. Steve, lucky Steve, got to chair the Adaptive Change Ad Hoc Committee that looked at what we were doing. While we were doing it, we were building the plane while we were flying it. And when we returned to our in-person world, we saw things with fresh eyes. We realized that some of the ways we did church for years could be done differently and better. Most importantly, many of us said that we felt like we knew each other better because of the ways we were gathering. Resilience was right there, even when we didn't realize it. And I do believe it's within us as part of our nature. It feels a bit like that moment in The Wizard of Oz when Dorothy realizes she has the power to go home all along. Right there in her shoes, she only needed to call upon it. Some days there won't be a song in your heart. Sing anyway, the writer and speaker Emery Austin says. I think that's good advice. And know that here at First Parish, there are a lot of us that'll be singing along with you. Be resilient. May it be so. Amen. And now we're going to have our moment of stillness. I realized I don't have Lisa's thing, but oh, thank you. So take a deep breath, settle in, close your eyes if you'd like. I'm going to ring the gong, it'll disappear, and then I'll ring it again when we're done.
Today's offering will go towards the service and ministry of First Parish. To give, simply text the number that is instructed on the laminated card in your pew. You may also deposit cash or check into the collection plates at the front entrance to the meeting house or the side entrance here at the end of the service. Please give as generously as you can to support the work and ongoing work that we do here at First Parish. Please join me in our unison dedication, which is text number 4 in the handout in your pew. And you may rise as you are willing and able. We'll sing the doxology right after this. May these gifts be transformed into strength for this faith community, into comfort, food, and shelter for those in need. And may we be transformed by generosity.
And as I extinguish the chalice, may you all know the comfort of community and your own inner strength of resilience. We will, after I extinguish it, we'll sing the final hymn. Have a good week, all.